Um, I gotta think about this for a minute. Hold on. Is it God?
Bingo. Okay, now, second question. Does the word salvage and salvation have to do with eh, with one another?
Mm-hmm.
Is God capable of saving that which needs saving?
That which needs saving from his doing, right?
Well, who else?
Obviously, you don't understand the timing of God
That's where the
because
Aeonian
his
comes in.
doings has a beginning and his doing has a middle and his doing has an end. We haven't seen the end yet. We might
Right, right. I
we
get
may
it.
be
So
at the
saving
middle. We may
saving
be at the
from
middle.
is a figure of speech. It's reduced to a figure of speech because there's no real save needed. It's all the proper and perfect plan of God. Everything that we perceive as a problem, right or wrong, is in the relative, which is unimportant. Which
Who
is
said
actually
anything about that? Death.
it's following the philosophy over a few years. That's the universalist philosophy or the atheist philosophy.
So, does Ace not believe in death, or do you not believe in death?
Well, dude, let me tell you something. It's not about believing in death.
Oh, so
The point of
what we're
contention
being
was
saved from doesn't actually matter. You
the
don't.
point of contention was the being saved as a figure of speech
Does
because God,
JG believe in death, Ace?
can you? I'm right here, first of all, but let me finish what I was saying.
Well, I figured if I asked you, you wouldn't actually answer the question.
Yeah,
So.
can you just be quiet for a second? The point of contention was the fact that we're being saved from what? It's a figure of speech. There's no problem.
I just told you death.
It's not a problem.
You don't even believe in death.
Yeah,
That's why you're not answering the question.
I don't believe in death, is your claim.
Do the dead know anything?
Are you retarded?
I don't know.
Probably. Yeah, I don't either. I mean,
can God save the retarded?
Yeah.
Again,
Amen.
he's saving it. The save is a figure of speech, right? It's a perfect plan with no right or wrong.
Save those who are dying?
It doesn't seem like you're addressing what I'm pointing out.
Can God vivify those who are dying?
It's a figure of speech because there's no wrong way. It's all God's way. You're just an actor.
Can God reconcile those who are dying?
Reconciles assumes that there's a problem. Again, it's a figure of speech because whatever.
Can God justify those
whatever
who are
they
dying?
did. Are you going into some sort of retard mode or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to be so frank about that with you, but if you'd kindly stop that, it'd be helpful.
It's difficult for a retard to understand your language, so can you make it a little more simple for me?
Okay. Whatever God does to say we need saving is a figure of speech because it's a perfect plan. Being subject to vanity, being subject to death would be a perfect plan in the universalist philosophy. So to say we need saving from it becomes a figure of speech.
No, because you're being saved from death. What do you not believe?
There's no actual save is the point. It's a figure of speech.
So to be saved, you have to be different from someone else. Is that what you're saying? Like you have to be more special than someone else to be saved?
It's not what I'm saying.
Like as long you're not actually being saved from death unless if someone else is, not being saved from death.
A save is a rescue. Like a save is a rescue, right?
Right.
Right. So like there's nothing to be rescued from if it's all of God's perfect plan and you're not an actual conscious being making choices and decisions. You're just acting out a role. So there's no actual it's just it's a movie that you're watching where no one's actually being saved. No one's actually being rescued. No one actually did anything wrong. It's just people on a stage.
I mean, you could if that argument works, you could make that argument about every verb that exists. No one's actually doing this. No one's actually like it's
Yeah, that's the universalist philosophy I've gathered over time. That's what is being said here on this channel, and the atheist concordanites.
concordanites.
Yeah. That's what I'm hearing from them. So when I try to work it out, when I think about it after the shows and so forth, I go, okay, so no one's doing anything. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's all in accordance with his will. So when we argue with each other,
I mean, doesn't the Bible
let
say
me
that
finish.
though,
Let me
Joe?
finish. When we're arguing with each other, we're making points. We're taking an ethical position. My position is right. I think your position is wrong. You ought to listen to what I'm saying. Well, that's just in the relative. We're being made to say these things, and it's not an actual stance. So it dismisses everything that's being done, everything that's being proclaimed, and everything that's being argued. I keep trying to point this out.
So should we believe the Bible? or
When you say
believe
should
philosophy?
when you ask me a question, you're in the domain of ethics. So when I answer back, I'm going to say, here's what I think you ought to do based on what I think is true. Since you've dismissed that in your theology, it can't be received, and you can't project a should or not onto me because you've dismissed
No,
the
because
realm.
what you're doing now is you're going to philosophy again.
You guys
what
have
I'm
a
saying-
philosophy. Everybody has a philosophy, dude. It's the
What
way you
I'm
see the world.
asking
It's the way you
is-
see the world.
What I'm asking is, what's more important, your logic and ethics, or the word?
It's a false dilemma. You're trying to say it's one or the other. The two are entailed with each other. The domain of ethics is part of the idea of the scriptures.
Which one supersedes the other?
They're interconnected. It's not a matter of one superseding the other. You're creating false dichotomies and dilemmas here. Why?
All I'm asking is it possible that your, understanding of the world that is based, in morals and all that are just kind of blinding you from like seeing the bigger picture?
So you're asking me if I could possibly be blinded. Okay, sure.
Well,
It's not a matter of
Yeah.
focusing on the reason I focus on the ethical component here is because it's being dismissed. The way I see the world is that ethics, human behavior, is entangled with our walk, what we do, and every aspect of our life. We can't escape it. We are part of that. It's part of the human experience. So our behavior, our ethic is included in what we do and what we say, what we proclaim, what we argue. Since the universalist dismisses that domain, dismisses that perspective, they're left without an argument. That's the overall point. I mean, it's
well,
fine.
I mean,
I'm sure the universalists they're going to continue and go on, even if they absorb what I'm saying. But I just want somebody to be able to say, "Oh, I see what you're saying." That does sort of dismiss the thrust of my actual argument. I do see that now, but I can't even.
Can I just say that you're kind of mixing up two things here? There's a lot of universalists who aren't
True.
that don't believe that God actually is God, but they still believe the reconciliation of all, right? So I guess maybe
fair enough. I'm lumping it together, but I specifically mean atheists.
Okay. Right.
But it does come down to those who would take on the absolute and relative perspective. That's where the
so really it's just anyone who believes anything about predestination.
Not necessarily. There's variations of that idea. It's more the perspective of saying that you're not responsible for your behavior, for your ethic, and then making arguments and pointing out people are doing things wrong while saying that they're not responsible as well. It's a negation. It's an obvious one. Hey, Bill. How you doing, man? I heard you talking earlier. Thought you might pop in if you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah. I was just saying, I wonder if you're very Romanist leaning. The way you was expressing differentiating between Hitler and just a general sinner sounds very Romanist.
Right.
Mortal and venial sins, they're different. When sin is sin, you know, it only takes someone to make a singular lie to condemn you.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying there. I think when we look back at if we go into the Torah, maybe Deuteronomy, it does have different variations of punishments for sins and so forth, different degrees. But that's the old covenant, the Mosaic law. But what I was trying to point out with was it Joe? Yeah, Joe, is that when someone says like, "Oh, I don't think I'm better than Hitler or Mao or a pedophile or rapist," like I just see that as a virtue signal. I was just pointing out practically, like he probably does think of himself as better as those people, and I was trying to move into a different point.
What if I told you I really don't think of myself better?
Well, I would just ask you to hash it out, and I'd probably ask you more questions if I was interested in that particular conversation.
Yeah, I really don't, because I've even when I claimed, at least I claimed to believe in free will, I would always say things like, "There's no difference because we're just products of our, circumstances."
Well, you make decisions though, like in your life where you don't have known pedophiles babysit your children, so you are going to be making
No,
that certain
that's
people.
just being reasonable.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're better though.
Well, you're a better babysitter than a pedophile.
Okay, that's probably obvious.
Well, that's
I mean, it's not probably, it is obvious. But
it goes against what you're saying is the point.
No,
like you're saying you're not better,
it means that there's patterns and that free will doesn't exist, because otherwise everything would just be random.
Right, you're determined to say that. So how did you get knowledge of the thing that you're proclaiming if you're fully determined?
What?
Yeah, exactly. What?
No, I don't understand.
You're saying
how
that
those are related.
you're saying you have no free will. You're fully determined. I'm saying, how did you get the knowledge that you're fully determined? Because you're just reciting something you're fully determined to say. You can't come to true knowledge.
Sure you can.
How?
How not? How are those things related?
Knowledge and what you're proclaiming?
Yes.
Well, you proclaim things that you know and believe.
I proclaim things I believe.
Yeah. So you don't know anything?
No.
You're saying no, you don't know anything?
Correct.
Okay, so your beliefs are based on things you don't know?
I mean,
Okay.
I don't even know that I know anything.
Well, how do you know that then?
That's what I'm saying.
No, it's a regress. You're saying I don't know that I don't know that I don't know. And you keep doing it, but you claim that
No,
you know
I'm
that.
saying I claim that I believe that I don't know anything.
It doesn't matter if you're going to switch up the word believe. It really doesn't. You're conceptually just saying, I know. It's like Socrates, all I know is that I don't know anything. Okay, well, how do you know that then, right?
Well,
it's an infinite regress. It's a misstep.
all I know that I don't know anything is just a way of saying, like, there's no, like, you're open to new knowledge, or you're open to change your mind about things, because at the end of the day, like, we're just all stupid, and there's always new things to learn, and it's hard to know that I'm right. Like, how do I know I'm right?
It's a proclamation of being humble and open-minded, essentially. But when analyzed and scrutinized, it doesn't work.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, you don't know, right? Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that everything's too complicated for me to really, like, be like, yeah, I have nothing new to learn about that. Like, I just don't think that way.
Well, you want to know where your foundation is in any venture, right?
I want to know something, but I don't see how I could. Is what I'm saying.
You don't see how you could know that God exists?
I think it's evident. I think it's very there's probably nothing more unlikely in my understanding of the world than God to not exist. But
So when you say God is God, like I've heard you say, you're saying, well, that might be the case, or that is the case.
well, of course, God is God. If God were to
When you
exist,
say, of
then he would be
course,
God.
when you say, of course, isn't that knowledge?
I mean, that's the problem. Is what I if you wanna actually like show me that you can know something, then show me, because I'm genuinely like I've thought about epistemology some, but like I
Yeah.
don't I it's like the hardest thing to me to be like, well, like if there's always missing information and you don't even know what information's missing, like how do you determine what you know and what you don't know?
Well, right. You get
Yeah.
lost in an epistemological vicious circle if you take a secular philosophy. If you start from the autonomous reasoning, the reasoning of the alleged self and sense data, you can't really come to knowledge. But if you take a
Like,
Christian perspective,
is there a way to like that would be falsifiable, that would not come to errors, where, in other words, like if you use this method, you wouldn't ever like have a guy who thought he knew something that was false? Is there anything that you could do to actually do that?
yeah, you lost me at the end there. You said, I'm sorry, I missed the end about, you said a
What
guy.
I'm saying, like, if you use such a method to prove supposedly that something was true, couldn't you almost with any of these methods prove, supposedly prove something's true, but then it end up being false?
Yeah, again, if you use a secular autonomous philosophy, that's where philosophy ultimately leads. That's why Paul warns us of vain worldly philosophies. Paul presupposes Christ, the revelation of Christ, and he presupposes God, which is Christ, in
But
his
doesn't
walk.
he
That's where he
presuppose
starts.
those based on a reason?
Yeah, of
It's
course.
not like a
He has a
blind presupposition.
right. He has a in Paul's case, he has a revelation from Saul, and he then positions the presupposition of God and Christ and the resurrection at the pinnacle, or rather at the foundation of his worldview. That's where he starts.
Have you read any like books on this, or any like on like like epistemology? And
Yeah, I
would
study
you
it condition.
recommend anything?
I just study conditionally through other people.
Right.
Usually, I do have some literature on it.
Like
But
I've tried to think about like if there was a way to like actually like show that even just anything, like it doesn't even have to be a certain topic, but I've thought about if there's like a way of like showing it mathematically, but I don't know how to do that.
true knowledge,
I guess.
you if you're a believer, you do have a way. You can claim knowledge. You presuppose God and the truth of the scriptures, general revelation, personal revelation, ultimately divine revelation. We know
Does everything have to have a presupposition? I mean, yes, I guess.
Everybody has presuppositions. It's why it's such a critical and important area to discuss. Most unbelievers don't want to go there. They want to hide their presuppositions because that's where you find out they're in a vicious circle, or that they can be reduced to absurdity because they're coming off of feelings and sense data which can't justify the philosophies and things they have faith in. They just take it for granted. So you want to point that out. I say, how are you assuming uniformity in nature? How are you assuming identity over time, induction, that the future will be like the past? They don't have.
I mean, even like an atheist is assuming that his senses are right, and assuming, that his logic is right, and assuming like an endless amount of things.
And then he'll tell you that they can also be
science,
wrong,
whatever. Yeah.
right?
But some of
So-
them won't. Some of them will be so like there's no way there could be a God, and
Well, that's when they take a stance that they can't commit to because
Yeah.
ultimately they can't know that.
right.
That's why they want to move away. Like people would want to move into agnosis instead of atheism, hard atheism, say, well, I don't know. Then you want to point to their behavior. You say, well, you're saying you don't know if there's a God. How are you living?
Right. Huh. Yeah, I've thought about if there was a way to show that prophecy was made it without a doubt or what anything that would just but I don't know how to put numbers to a lot of this stuff really and I don't want to just go off someone else's supposed numbers. I want to actually have a reason that makes any amount of sense, not just so and so wrote this, so some people will just parrot what they heard, not really think about it.
I'm sorry, I have to check out. I was enjoying that.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Sorry I was a little rough on you at the beginning, but I got to go, guys. I'll talk to you later.
God bless.
Hello,
Well,
I have a question. So, if you don't believe in free will, what are you doing about Galatians 6:7-8?
6, 7 to 8, is that where it says about Ionian
I can read it for you.
reaping, Ionian reaping or something? Yeah, go ahead.
Be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, shall he also reapeth. For he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. So that's a choice there, right?
Huh?
There's a choice
No
to
one
reap
said there wasn't a
to the
choice.
flesh.
It's just not a free will choice.
You have to explain that
It's
further.
not. It's not free of circumstance. Everything you choose is going to be, not free.
Yeah, Mr. ... It's not free. The human will is not free of causality. It's not free of influence. And it's not free of being in bondage. So we have a will.
So God tempts the men.
What?
Does God tempt men?
Oh,
With
I'm sure you
lust
can find a
and
verse that seems to indicate that God does not tempt us, but all is actually of God, out of God, through God, and for God. And God created us with a mortal body, and we are born mortal. From the very day we are born, we are on the road to dying. And because we're on the road to dying, we feel shitty and hungry and insecure and low self-esteem, and we will behave badly because God created us mortal, and our will is influenced by our own mortality. A man will kill his own mother for a potato.
Yeah, doesn't Solomon say that something about a man's mouth that's very related to that? Solomon on his mouth. Let me find it.
what about in Matthew 6, where he says, lay not up yourself treasures upon earth? Isn't that something he says to someone, that you shouldn't do that?
Well, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and practice it all you want. But we're looking for a bigger picture here. What is God doing? What is the will of God? the will of God is to, let me back it up here so you can see it on the screen. The will of God is for all mankind to be saved and come into a realization of the truth. Does God have a will that is freer than our free will? Yes, because God's free will is uninfluenced by the human. And he will save all mankind, and he will bring all mankind to a realization of the truth. Why? Because there's just one God. We are not God. There's not 8 billion gods on the planet right now. There's only one God and a whole bunch of creatures. And we creatures are influenced by many things. We're influenced by the moment we're born, the century we're born, the hair color we have. We're influenced by parents and by the gangsters we grow up with. We're influenced by our diarrhea, the pizza we ate last night, our education level. We've got so many influencing factors that it's stupid, absolutely stupid to say that we have a free will. Talk to me about the
Amen.
will. Talk to me about the will, the human will. The Bible mentions the human will plenty of times, but it never mentions the human free will. Ever. Free will does not show up in the New Testament, and the teaching of human free will does not show up at all in the Old Testament. And the only way you can get there, ... is by inference and conjecture, but not by the clear teaching of the Bible.
Here's a non-free will verse. The toiler's soul toils for him, for his mouth prods him on.
Okay, never heard that. So you say the God, he sowed corruption. Whatsoever man soweth shall also reapeth. So you say God sowed corruption. He sowed to the flesh.
For not
So we reap
willingly was
corruption.
the
So he
for-
does.
Listen,
He makes
for
us
not
reap
willing-
corruption.
For not willingly was the creation subjected, but of him who subjects it. You believe that?
Can I get it again?
Romans
Or-
8:20 and 21.
Yeah. For
Let's
not
to look it
willingly
up.
was the creation subjected, but of him who subjects it.
Okay.
So who subjects it?
What was the verse? Romans 8 what?
20.
8:20 and 21. Here, I'll put it on the screen
Okay.
for you.
I want to see the context here.
There you go. Of course you want to see the context, because when it's
Yeah, you have
convenient
to
for
do
you
that.
to base your theology on inference and conjecture, you don't give a crap about context. But when we come along and tell you that only God has a free will and humanity has a limited will, oh, I want to see the context. It's right there on the screen.
Let me
For
see
to
how I
vanity-
can find to twist it, in other words.
For to vanity was the creation subjected against its will, because of him who subjects it. God himself. See, it's capital H-I-M. Because of him who subjects it, in the grand expectation that the creation itself also shall be freed from the slavery of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of God.
I don't understand it. Can you break it down?
Of
I'm not
course,
sure.
I will try, and it's understandable that you don't understand this, because I
Yeah.
confess, when I was a Christian, I looked at Romans 8:20 and 21, and I was incredibly confused as well, because Christians believe that man has a free will, but the language of the Scripture is says that's a bullshit idea. For to vanity, here we'll go real slow. For to
Yeah.
vanity was the creation subjected against its will, not voluntarily. The creation didn't do this. It didn't subject itself to vanity. This was the design and plan of God. What is going on here? Creation was subjected to vanity against its will, not voluntarily. Why? Oh, it's because of God. Because of God who subjects creation to vanity in the expectation that the creation itself also one day shall be freed from the slavery of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of God. JG, where's responsibility in Romans 8:20 and 21? It lies in the lap of God, JG. All the responsibility lies in the lap of God. You can only see that creation is vain and futile and stinks up to high heaven with its corruption. But God has a plan. He's going to get what he wants because God's will is unopposable, even by those who think that they can oppose God's will. His will is unopposable. Does that explain it? ...
Yeah, but I have another verse, if we can explain that. It's James chapter 1, 12. I can
don't
read
care.
it.
I don't care what James chapter 1 says. Address this. Read it to me. Romans
No,
8,
I don't
20,
understand it
21.
still.
Read it to me and tell me that that this is truly God's word.
But I don't understand it. I have to check it out,
If you don't
on my own
understand
time.
it, does that mean it's not God's word?
No, it is not.
If you
I
don't
have to
understand
look
it,
at translations and stuff. And I just go ahead and say what it means in 1
okay,
second.
read it to me. Let's see if you can get it just by reading it out loud.
For to vanity was the creation subjected, not, but what is that word?
Voluntarily.
But because of him who subjects it in expression
Expectation.
expectation that the creation itself also shall be
Freed.
freed from the slavery of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of God.
Okay, so
Okay.
you got two problems here, right? You don't understand the word voluntarily, and you
Yeah.
don't understand the word expectation.
Okay.
Okay, so when a woman is expecting a child, do you understand that?
Yeah. It's coming.
That means her belly is really big and she's going to have a child.
Yes.
She's expecting a child. Do you understand
Yeah.
the word voluntarily?
Yes, it's free. It's your choice, right?
Right. And do you see
Okay.
the word not right there?
Where?
Not voluntarily.
Okay, yeah.
All right, now read the passage again and let's see if it makes sense.
Here we go again. Can we get another one to read it this
Hell
time?
no. If you don't believe this one, you won't believe any Bible verse.
Can we go to King James?
No. Because the King
Why not?
James is even more strong than this version.
Why not? Then let's
Okay,
go to
read
that.
the King James to me and let's
Okay,
see.
let me find it. Give me a second. Okay. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope, because the creature itself also shall be developed at what the how do I say this word? So I'm retarded.
21 Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God.
Did you hear that? Or hopefully you heard that. Did you hear it or not yet?
I heard it
That's good.
and I find it hilarious that you want to come over here and argue, but you can't even
I didn't
read.
argue. I asked questions. I cannot read, as you can hear. So explain it again. I'm not understanding it.
Okay, we got the subject of creation here, right?
Yeah.
The creation, everybody
Yes.
is subjected to futility and vanity and a bad situation.
Right.
How did it happen? Did it happen because the creation had a free will, or did it happen against our will?
Is this talk about Adam and Eve?
All
Sin?
creation.
Isn't that the beginning there?
Yes,
Sin had-
Adam and Eve would be the beginning, yeah.
Is it that it's referring to, or I'm not sure.
It could be a bigger concept than just Adam and Eve, but we can start with Adam and Eve. Let's go.
All right. Go ahead.
So Adam and Eve and all of Adam and Eve's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren and you were subjected to vanity against your will. What the hell is going on here? Why did this happen? You didn't choose it. It wasn't voluntary. It happened because of him, because of
Right.
God.
Because of God. Yeah.
Why? What does God want?
And he is the creator. You know?
He is the
He
creator.
can do whatever he wants.
That's right. He subjects
Yep.
the whole creation to vanity because he's got a plan. He's got a
save us.
hope.
Yeah.
He's got an expectation that one day the whole creation will be set free from the slavery of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of God.
But that's God's will. That's not our will. I
So?
ask about free will between us, the humans, not the creator.
So
So do we have free will? God,
we have
he-
a will.
We have a will.
We
Yeah,
have
we
a
have
will.
a will. I agree. I
Stop
agree.
using the word free will. It's misleading and not help it. It doesn't help at all.
But we can reap and sow. So that's a will. You can sow to the flesh and reap corruption, and you can sow to spirit and reap life everlasting. So
Well,
that's
go
a
ahead
will.
and
Right?
do that. I don't mind if you do that.
That's in the text as well.
Fine, do it.
Thank you. I will try to
Okay.
do that.
Okay, I'm proud of you. And you ought to be proud of yourself.
No, I'm just bringing it to your attention. I want you to break it down.
You want me to do what?
Break it down. The verse is in Galatians, so you accept
I
it.
know. I know it's in Galatians.
Go ahead.
It's a good thing to behave yourself. Stop stealing. It's a good thing. Nothing against that. But we want to actually, from time to time, see if we can see the bigger picture. And here in Romans 8:20 and 21, we have the bigger picture smacking us in the face. And this is perhaps the most hated verse in the Bible. Romans 8:20 and 21. Nobody loves it because everybody loves free will and free will teaching. And everybody thinks that they are so strong and beautiful and look at me, look at me, look at me.
So do you believe there's treasures in heaven?
What?
Do you believe there's treasures in heaven? Or not?
Well, we've been going for 3 hours. At the beginning of the show, I had a hell of a lot to say about this business of treasures in heaven, streets of gold,
okay.
gates of pearl, walls made of jasper. And yet, in the book of Revelation, at the very end, there's still tent cities all over the outside of the great city of God, the New Jerusalem. And it's filled with riffraff, murderers and liars and fornicators.
Yeah.
What? It's filled with tent city riffraff. Nobody has been converted. I mean, the universal reconciliation has not happened at the very close of the book of Revelation. John doesn't see the big picture. Right here is the big picture, that the entire creation will be freed from the slavery of corruption one day into the glorious freedom of the children of God. There will be no riffraff there. They will be changed. God will be all in them. They
Does
won't be
James not
living
understand?
outside the gate. They will be in the Father's lap.
Okay, in James 1 it says, "Blessed is the man that endureth temptation."
So
Does he not understand, or what? What's going on there?
James does not understand
What in the
this
world?
passage.
You
Romans
say
8,
there's no
20 and
free will.
21.
Why does he say that?
Because James
Does he
is
not
stupid.
understand, or what?
Yeah,
So
James
he's
is
also stupid.
stupid.
So who's not stupid?
Paul is smart. Paul gets a revelation from God about the truth of the matter.
Who wrote
well, it
Galatians?
says here, blessed
Who
is
wrote
the man
Galatians?
who endures temptation. You can't believe in no free will, damn it.
I can read further if you just make fun. Okay, so blessed is
Ridiculous.
the man
That
that
has
endures
nothing to do
temptation,
with free
for
will.
when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. So God tempteth not any man, and he cannot be tempted with evil. So
I'm
no man is
impressed.
tempted by God.
Wow.
Is that free will? Or?
It is
No.
not free will. It is a bullshit verse that you have found, and you're using it as an inference and a conjecture. Do you know what the word inference means?
No.
Okay, the word inference is you walk in and you say to your woman, hey, you look good today.
Right?
And she says, what? I didn't look good yesterday? What do you mean by that? So she takes your compliment and infers. That's what inference means. It's an inference. She infers that you didn't think she looked beautiful yesterday. She's looking for a fight. You are
Okay.
looking for a fight because you're basing a bunch of your theology and understanding on verses that just feed your inference and your conjectures that God is not God, and you determine your own destiny by obeying and believing and resisting temptation and all that crap, when the truth is right here. For to vanity was the creation subjected, not voluntarily, but because of him who subjects it, in expectation that the creation itself also shall be freed from the slavery of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of God. This is a great prophecy of what is going to happen in the future. And not only is it a great prophecy, it's a great explanation of where we are at the moment. We're just puzzled as hell as how much vanity and corruption there is in our experience. But it's temporary. God is going to bring the whole creation into the glorious freedom of the children of God. And I don't care how many inference verses you can find that says you better behave yourself because Santa Claus is checking his list twice and he's going to see who's naughty and nice. And he sees you when you're sleeping, the pervert.
Jesus Claus is coming to town.
All right, what is the verses then about? Can you just explain the verses I bring up? Verse by
No,
verse, so I
will not
understand them.
explain them.
Okay, then I'm stuck with the same belief. If you cannot explain
Why don't
it.
you just read them and then stop inferring something, and then you can figure it out? It's pretty easy. He doesn't have to explain it to you. Are you 2 years old? Read it.
Yeah. Mentally, yeah. So
Apparently.
you read it and then you explain it because I'm retarded, you know.
Yeah. Just read it and then you don't make any inferences and then you'll know what it means. You don't have to infer anything. Just read it as it says. Does it say anything about free will?